The Las Vegas Raiders should trade for Seahawks cornerback Riq Woolen. My name is Mitchell Renz. You're watching the Raiders Report, and coming up here on today's show, I'm going to tell you why it makes sense not only for the silver and black, but also for the Seattle Seahawks. And I sat down and I talked to Seahawks host today here at Chat Sports, Will Ortner, and I said, give me some trade ideas of what Seattle would want. So you guys are going to see what a Seattle Seahawks fan, a host here at Chat Sports, would want for Riq Woolen in a trade. And then I'm going to tell you what my proposition would be for the Seahawks cornerback. But let's face the facts here. I think when you talk about moves that the Raiders need to be able to go out and make, I think going out and adding a cornerback, it makes a lot of sense. And the first reason why I think the Raiders should honestly do this, let's look at the Eric Stokes injury. I don't have the information at the time that I am recording this video of what the Eric Stokes injury is, but what I know is this. I know that he suffered an injury to that knee in week 4, and he had to leave the game early. Darian Porter went in and I actually think did a halfway decent job. He's had to deal, though, with tons of knee injuries throughout his entire career. So when I see a player that's had a lot of knee injuries, that's missed multiple games, and honestly, he's missed more games than he's probably played his first few years in the NFL due to knee injuries, and he's had some scary freak knee injuries, I don't know if I can count on Eric Stokes to be the corner that he's been the first 4 weeks of the season, because he's been the number one corner for the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's go to the next reason why I would make this move. We need cornerback depth. Even if Eric Stokes is 100% healthy, I'd sit up here and I'd tell you, we need cornerback depth. And right now with the current room that we have, there's a lot of unknowns with this room, because if Stokes is out, DeCamerion Richardson hasn't played since week 1 due to a hamstring injury that's been bothering him for a long time. Darnay Holmes, nobody here honestly believes in him. Darian Porter hasn't really been playing, though. When he's got some opportunities this year, he's looked actually pretty damn good. Kai Blue Kelly, the past 2 weeks, has been grandma getting out of the tub type of bad, where you're like, I don't really want to watch this anymore. Please turn it off. I don't get it off my screen. But I also look at that cornerback room and I go, Tariq Woolen, has he been struggling? Yep, we'll talk about that here in a little bit, though. I think Tariq Woolen might be the best cornerback on our team. And I know that we have one of the worst cornerback rooms in the National Football League, but if Pete Carroll is a cornerback whisperer like I think he is, let's go out and get a guy that he also has, some connections with. Let's go to the next reason, though, of why I think that this trade could make some sense and why it makes sense for Seattle's standpoint. So I was talking to Ortner, and I said, hey, man, why would Seattle trade away Riq Woolen, a young guy that, if you look at the numbers, he probably could have won Defensive Player of the Year as a rookie, and right now as it stands is a starter. So I said, why would this honestly happen? Ortner told me that Josh Jobe and Darian Kendrick are playing extremely well right now. And what's interesting is Darian Kendrick was originally not a starter. And then Witherspoon, who they drafted really high, remember we liked him coming out of Illinois, he falls with an injury. Darian Kendrick now steps up, and he's been playing really flipping well in the nickel. So you're not going to not play Witherspoon. What's probably going to happen, and Darian Kendrick's got 2 INTs, probably could have 4 INTs this season. What I honestly think ends up happening is Riq Woolen could end up getting benched, because Woolen's going to come in, probably take Witherspoon's role, or Witherspoon's going to take Riq Woolen's role, and then you're going to have Josh Jobe. He's still going to be the starting corner on the outside, and then they're going to put Darian Kendrick in on the nickel, which kind of means that Riq Woolen's just going to be out there hanging out, and you don't know what exactly his role is going to be. So if you're the Seattle Seahawks, you're sitting there going, well, if there's a team that could potentially be interested, I would rather trade him now as a starter, because that stock's going to be a little bit higher, where if he's a bench player, you're not going to get nearly the return on your original investment. I got more reasons coming up here in just a moment, but if you're a Raiders fan and you want to become a smarter Raiders fan, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we're giving you free content every single day here. Also, for the first time ever, we are really close in Raiders Report history. I've been doing this show for 7 years. We've never gotten 6,000 new subscribers in 1 month. If we get 47 new subscribers today, we will get 6,000 new subscribers for the first time in Raiders Report history. If you love the Raiders Report, if you think that you're part of the family here, I hope that you really hold that prideful, because in a tough year already, Raider Nation is always showing up and showing out. Join the family, hit that subscribe button. Let's go to the next reason here of why I think that the Raiders should go out and trade for Tariq Woolen. It's a buy low. I'm a yard sale type of guy. I walk into a store, I'm not afraid to admit it. I look at the clearance rack. I look at the sale rack. Hell, especially when I'm shopping with my wife, I'm like, let's go to the clearance rack first. But the reason why you could potentially buy low right now on the Seattle corner is because he has gotten worse and worse each year, and he is starting to fall out of favor in Seattle. Also, he's in a contract year, and the Seattle Seahawks don't want to pay him. So knowing that, we could have an opportunity to swoop in and go get him. Also, the fact that the cornerback room right now in Seattle is deeper, Woolen is expendable. And when I hear expendable, I hear in a contract year, a team doesn't want to pay him. And the fact that he's gotten worse and worse since Pete Carroll has left, all of those reasons there make a lot of sense. I mean, like, let's look at the PFF numbers as it stands right now. In 269 total snaps, Tariq Woolen, he's got a 40.4 overall PFF grade. And believe me, these numbers here, they're not good. And I know that there's going to be a lot of Raiders fans at home right now going, Mitch, you want to trade for this guy? Yes. Yes, I do. Why? Because I know what Tariq Woolen looked like with Pete Carroll, which is exactly why I'm going to ask you all this question now. Because if you're looking at the tape of Woolen the last 2 years, you're probably going to say pass. And that's totally fine. But if you think in your heart of hearts that Woolen could be a starter on this team, and if you believe in his connection with Pete Carroll, I think you should type trade. So to everybody that comes across this video, y'all are about to get in with the YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down and answer this question. If you bleed silver and black, answer this question. Trade or pass, what should the Raiders do for Tariq Woolen? I made this video for a reason. I believe the Raiders should go out and trade for Riq Woolen for all of the reasons that I just outlined here, and the biggest reason why I actually think it could happen, right? Like, we talk a lot about trades on this show. Why? Because we like to be able to create conversations here, and there's a lot of times where I'll talk about a player, and then I'll go, well, I actually don't think that it's going to happen. I don't think that trade's going to happen. The reason why that this trade 100% could happen, and I think people that follow the NFL and people that follow this show closely know that this trade is actually a possibility, where there's sometimes trades get thrown out and you're like, come on, man, that's not going to happen. This is one that absolutely positively can happen because we know what relationships and connections mean to Pete Carroll and this regime. Riq Woolen was selected in the 5th round of the 2022 NFL Draft by Pete Carroll and that regime out of UTSA. Quite frankly, how many of the OGs and the real ones remember me talking about Riq Woolen and being like, I absolutely love this guy, and I hope that the Raiders go out and get him in 2022. But Woolen's best 2 years were with Pete in Seattle. And I think when you talk about the definition of a Pete Carroll corner, it's a 6'4", 210, absolute athletic freak. That's what Pete Carroll looks for. And that's exactly what Riq Woolen is. And then, if you're Riq, you're probably also sitting there going, I would love the opportunity to go play for Pete Carroll again. I would love the opportunity to go play for the Las Vegas Raiders, where I can be potentially the number one corner on that roster, because look at those 2022 numbers. Look at those rookie numbers. Teams were testing him, and he was making people pay. 16 PBUs, 6 interceptions in 2023, 53 tackles, 2 interceptions, 11 PBUs. I mean, this guy is an absolute athletic monster, and maybe there is something that we know, or maybe there is something that Pete Carroll knows that other coaches just don't see and they can't read about him. Because when the last 2 seasons they're good, right? But they're still not nearly as good as what Riq was doing with his first 2 seasons in Seattle. And that's kind of where I'm sitting up here and I'm going, can we recreate that magic? And for Pete Carroll, the cornerback whisperer, the connection's there. Our need is there. I think it's a buy low option. I think all of those reasons are why it makes a lot of sense of why the Las Vegas Raiders could be a team that goes out and tries to get Tariq Woolen from the Seattle Seahawks. Coming up next year, though, takes 2 to tango, and it takes the deal to end up getting a trade done. I got some Raiders and Seahawks trade ideas coming up here, and I got 3 of them. 2 from our Seahawks guy, and then the offer that I would send to Seattle to get this deal done. Speaking of, let's get this done. I want you to download the PrizePicks app. Why? Because it's a lot of fun, and when you do, it helps us out. If you're a Raiders fan and you're sitting at home right now going, Mitch, the season's over, I actually think that's even more of a reason for you to go right now. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. And if you think that you're right a lot, well, join millions of users and sign up for America's #1 fantasy sports app. PrizePicks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. If you've been following me all season long, I have been doing a lot of flex plays, which I love to be able to do because PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out. Even if your lineup isn't perfect, you can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So for those of you that were tuned in and watching our Monday Night Football game yesterday between the Broncos and the Bengals, that game was horrible. Nobody wanted to watch that game. But guess what? I was sitting here hooting and hollering, cheering because I needed the more on J.K. Dobbins. And sure, I didn't get $60, but I turned my $10 into $20. And that's why I love PrizePicks, because even in a game that I don't care anything about, I'm going to have fun watching. And in today's day and age, if you got 3 hours of entertainment for $10 and then the chance to win $20, sign me up for that every single day of the week, especially being a Raiders fan. I appreciate PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show, and I hope that you show our sponsor a little bit of love. Coming up next here on the show, let's get into the Raiders and Seahawks trade ideas that are they're gonna be a little bit eye-popping, okay? And I'll talk about what each trade is. So the first trade that you are going to see is our Seahawks host Will Ortner's dream trade. So this is a trade that he offered me, and he goes, Mitch, do you think that John Spytek, Pete Carroll, and the Las Vegas Raiders would accept this trade? I'll tell you this right now. Y'all are going to hate it. And I also did not like it. I think Riq Woolen is a really special player. And I do think that he would help out this team. I'm not giving up Jackson Powers-Johnson. 0% chance I'm giving up JPJ. It just doesn't make sense for this organization to right now give up your best offensive lineman. With Colton Miller potentially done for the season with not only that high ankle sprain, but that hairline fracture as well, you can't trade away Jackson Powers-Johnson. The only way you trade away JPJ is if you hate Ashton Genty and Geno Smith. Let's go to the next trade idea here, and this is his realistic trade idea of what he honestly believes it would cost to go out and get him from the Seattle Seahawks, and here's the trade idea. Now, when he says realistic, he also believes that the Raiders might be willing to overpay a little bit because of the connection with Pete, because of the past success that Woolen had with Carroll, but a 4th-round pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. If you feel like that's a little bit too rich for your blood, also reminder, we're going to get some extra comp picks, and we have an extra 4th-round comp pick. So if you're like the Raiders and you're like, all right, well, I don't want to give up that 4th, well, you could get that 4th, you get Riq Woolen, and then you'll have that 4th-round comp come the NFL draft time. Here's my trade offer, though, okay? And it's really not too far off from one of the deals that you've already seen here on today's program. But to me, I would sit up here and I'd go, Seahawks drafted him for a 5th-round pick back in 2022. I think us offering a 5th-rounder is a fair deal. I mean, imagine this. Imagine you bought a car in 2022, and then you're able to sell that car in 2026 for exactly what you bought for it in 2022. If that's a player that you have no interest in and bringing back in terms of a brand new contract, if that's a player that you don't even know if he's going to be a starter on your roster, that's a win-win situation. I think that this is a win for the Seahawks. I think this is a win for the Las Vegas Raiders. However, though, I want to know what the nation has to say. Who wins this trade? And if you want to take a screenshot of this bad boy, I know trades go viral. If you take a screenshot, make sure that you tag me on Instagram and on Twitter at Mitchell Renz 365. But if you think the Silver and Black win this deal, type LV. If you think the Seattle Seahawks win this deal, type SEA. Now, I'm looking right now at the live chat down below. There's some people that are saying, Mitch, we could have gone a little bit cheaper. And you might be right. We could have gone a little bit cheaper, but I also know that Riq Woolen is going to be a player that other teams go out and they look for. I also know that the Raiders are sometimes willing to overpay a little bit for something that they want. Like, look at the Kenny Pickett deal, right? So I'm looking at this deal right now, and I'm going, I also know we have an extra 5th-round comp pick. So because of that, I am okay giving up a 5th-rounder for a player that looked as good as what Riq Woolen did, because if we get the Riq Woolen that showed up in 2022 and 2023, that's going to be a corner that could potentially send a contract extension of $15 million plus per year. That sounds pretty damn good to me. If you don't know my live schedule this week, here's when I'm going to be going live. I'm going to be live Thursday Night Football, like I go live for every Thursday Night Football. It's going to be a wild one, though, and we got a lot of beers that we got to put down. Then I'm going to be live noon Eastern time, 1 hour before kickoff, Raiders Colts. If you don't know, I go live every single Monday now, 1 p.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific. Then we're going to be live for Monday Night Football, and then we're back again next week for October 7th. I'll also say this. My wife's birthday is the 6th. So I hope this. If I'm missing my wife's birthday, I hope that you guys come party and hang out with us all day here on the Raiders Court. Because if you don't, you guarantee this, I'm going to hear about it.